All right, so this is a quick video to demonstrate the use of formatting string output. And here's what I mean by that. This is just a silly little example, but it gets the point across. So I have some different data types. I have a string, I have a char, I have a double, I have a Boolean, and I've set them all to values. And in the past, what we've done is we've string system.out.println, and then we would concatenate what we needed, right? The, and then plus, and then cat, and then, but the problem comes in when I start, especially when I start doing, let's see, let's just put in price, plus, and then I put price. Let's just see what prints out when I do that. So if I print that out, here's where things get frustrating. Okay, so this works. I concatenated it and everything is printing, but what's not printing is the 0 in the 5.0. And I really wanted that as part of my output. And so we're going to look at doing a printf instead of printf, and I'm going to erase my string here. And printf gives us the ability to do specialized formatting of our output. In other words, let me just do it. So I'm going to printf. The first thing that we're going to put in is what we want our sentence to look like. So in other words, in my double quotes here, I would like to write, let's see, I'm going to do this, is it, and what I would like to say, is it true? Now I'm going to put in what's called a placeholder, this %b, and b stands for Boolean. So I'm going to put in this Boolean variable, this Boolean value in this place. So it's going to say, is it true that, and then I'm going to print in, I want A to print here, that's a char, that's a letter. So I'm going to put % for the placeholder and C for char. These are all listed in your book, so you can look and see what the values are. So is it true that a cat, and so cat is a string, so I'm going to put S for string, is, and then here's where things get kind of cool. I'm going to put to F, and I'll explain that in a second here. So placeholders simply say, in this spot, I want you to put a variable, the value that's in a variable. And in this spot, that value happens to be a Boolean. In this spot, this happens to be a char, etc., etc. And by putting everything exactly, formatting it exactly the way I want in this quotes, maybe, for example, I also want a $ in front of that price, okay? And so these are placeholders for place here a value that's going to be provided by. In this case, our value is going to be provided by is it. So now I put a comma, and in order, I have to put the variables that I want to plot the values in here. In other words, instead of this placeholder B, I want the value of this Boolean variable. So I'm going to put is it, and then a comma. Now I have to match the variables not only with the order, but with the number of placeholders that I set. So this reserves a place for a char type, which is letter, is that variable. Okay, and then the next placeholder is looking for a string variable. So I'm going to put this string variable, and so I expect cat to show up in the place of this placeholder. And then the word is, oh, I'm sorry, then is there. Then I put a comma, and then this particular one is interesting in the fact that what we're suggesting here is not just what we want to put in this spot. We want a floating point, which is the F, but the 4.2 says I want the entire, this is the width specifier. I would like this to take up a certain amount of, I want it to take up 4 spaces on the console when it outputs. 2 of those spaces are going to be occupied by the decimal. So if there is not a decimal already provided, provide a 0. In other words, now we'll force our 0 to be printed. 4 says, I want 4 spaces, including the decimal, and 2 places. Now, if we wanted to put some padding to the left, perhaps we could even say maybe 10. So this entire width is going to take up 10 spaces, and we're also going to include a decimal with at least 2 placeholders on the right side. Now, the variable that we want to fill has to be a floating point, and we have a floating point, which is our double, and so that would be price. So I'm going to put price spelled correctly there. And so now when we run it, we have our sentence. This is exactly the sentence that I want you to print. So everything I want printed appears exactly this way, with the exception of our variables, and plop the values of the variables into these places. And so let's go ahead and run that. And so now we can see that, is it true? So true got placed here. Oh, lost my output there. Let me see if I can lock that in place. Is it true that, and then a char was supposed to be put in there? Yep, the A was placed in our sentence. And then our string was next. So the value for our string was placed there. And then is, well, that was hard-coded there. And here, there's our $sign. And here's where we wanted to put in our price. Notice all of this left padding. That's because I said this entire placeholder needs to take up 10 spaces, which it did, of which 0.2, so we actually see our 50, places our decimals. So the decimals, the period, the 4-2, and all the left spacing here should equal 10 spaces in total. So print formatting is a nicer way to be able to plop in or concatenate, for lack of a better word. We're not actually doing the concatenating, but we're plopping in variables, values into a sentence, so that way it's a little bit cleaner and it's a little bit easier to format. So that's print formatting string. Make sure you look in your book for the different placeholder options that are available.